Hey guys, Diane Burrows here from BirdSupplies.com, and today I'm going to talk about how to train your bird to wear a bird collar. So we're going to cover some before considerations, before you start the training considerations, the supplies you're going to need to do the training, 2 styles of training, and then I'm going to give you some pro tips to make it as successful as possible for you as you're embarking on recovering from feather plucking or a surgery or whatever the reason that you're buying the bird collar for. So I've got my little friend here with me today. Her name is Kiwi, and she's been eating millet at the bottom of her tray. But Kiwi is a 6-month-old green cheek conure, and she's a pretty confident little bird. She loves to explore, so her disposition is actually pretty fun and frisky, I guess you could say. So anyway, let's jump into some things that you need to know before you start the training. And you might want to get a pen and paper so that you can take some notes, because there's a lot we're going to cover and some pretty important tips that will make the bird collar experience more successful for you. Some considerations that you're going to want to take into place, or into consideration, I guess, before you start your training is going to be your bird's disposition. So the more nervous the bird is to begin with, the more careful you have to be about the training, the more intentional you have to be about the training to keep your bird's trust. You want it to feel safe for the bird. A confident bird like Kiwi is going to progress a little bit faster. So you can anticipate that training may take anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks to really help your bird to feel confident and comfortable in the collar. The other thing you're going to have to take into consideration is that these collars, even though they're pretty lightweight and comfortable, way more comfortable than, say, a plastic collar, they are a little weighty for the bird. So it'd be like you may be carrying a backpack all day long to just slap one of these on the bird. So you might want to help your bird to develop the physical stamina to actually carry the weight. So the first time that people put these collars on, the weight is scary for the bird. And a lot of times you'll see the bird roll over and throw a fit and that sort of thing. And so, keep in mind that your bird's going to have to build up tolerance to wear the collar. And it's also going to have to build up tolerance in terms of how the collar feels against its feathers. So, as you look at your bird, you can notice how each of its feathers lays in a certain direction. And then if the feathers get out of alignment, your bird will kind of ruffle up and shake the feathers out and get them back into alignment. And it's not going to be able to do that as easily in a bird collar. So your bird's going to, it's going to have another little hurdle that it has to get over. It has to get accustomed to the feel of the collar. And finally, a consideration that you need to really keep in mind is that the earlier you catch feather plucking and start handling it and managing it, the better. And so we've got 3 strategies that we promote here at BirdSupplies.com because not everybody catches feather plucking early. And in fact, some people, wait till it's almost too late or years before they take some action. And so the earlier you catch it, the better, because first of all, the bird hasn't developed a really strong habit at that stage of the game yet. But also, it hasn't turned into kind of a brain chemistry habit yet. So the more severe the plucking, the more strategies you're going to need to use. So a bird collar simply interrupts the plucking cycle and makes it harder for the bird to get to itself. You want to combine it with nutritional supplements, wellness, and even behavior modification. So we cover all of that here at BirdSupplies.com. I've got the nutritional supplements on the website that help support feather pluckers, and then I've got a range of behavior modification books like the one behind me on Feather Plucking Remedies workbook. So keep that in mind as you're working through this journey, and it is a journey to learn how to manage feather plucking. But one of the most important things, and the first thing that a lot of vets recommend, is to actually get a bird collar. And some vets will make collars out of plastic X-ray film, or even sell those plastic collars. Those are pretty disruptive to daily activities, and that's why our collars are so popular. In fact, a lot of vets around the country sell them in their for their clientele. So we've got a couple of different styles of collars. We've got the cone collars, and we've got neck collars, and then we've got some vests. And the cone collars can either be like a slip-on or have a Velcro closure. So today I'm going to show you about the slip-on with Kiwi. Slip-ons are a little harder to get on, but they're also harder for the bird to get off. But I'm jumping the gun here a little bit because I want to talk to you about the supplies that will make this training of how to get a bird collar on easier. So if your bird, if you've ever heard of clicker training, this is one of the most effective ways to train a bird to learn new behaviors. And so I would highly recommend you get a clicker, which is a little device that makes a unique click sound. And when you click, you have to load your bird so that you click and then you treat them with their favorite treat immediately. And then the bird learns to associate the behavior that you're trying to teach it with something really positive. So this has to be a really motivating treat. Kiwi loves millet, and so I can't give her millet all the time. I have to reserve it for my training sessions. But you can tell she's just clamoring for it. She's so funny. So you need some supplies. You also need a bird stand that, you know, this kind of offers her a great height for training, but it also confines her and keeps her engaged with the training sessions. So you want a clicker, a treat, a favorite treat, a highly motivating treat, and a bird stand for your training sessions. So the next thing, once you get your supplies together, you're going to want to look at two different styles of how to put a collar on. One that I really like is what's called force-free training. And force-free training is essentially desensitizing your bird over time in small incremental steps with highly rewarding motivators so that the bird learns to accept and actually enjoy the collar. In fact, some people will tell us that their birds kind of think of the collar as like a thunder shirt, you know, or a weighted blanket, where it provides a sense of comfort to the bird. The other way to train a bird is, and a lot of people do this, and vets do this too, but is to just simply put the collar on and then encourage the bird to tolerate it after the fact. We recommend this method when the bird is hurting itself, or you are so worried about the plucking that, you know, it's really just causing you a lot of distress. But the more humane way is going to be the force-free training. The third way is to actually take your bird to the vet, and the vet tech can put that on for you. As a matter of fact, we have a lot of avian vets that just, or people that buy the collar, ship it to the avian vet, and then once that comes in, they call you up and say, hey, time to put the collar on. So those are the three methods. I'm going to talk about force-free training first. And the force-free training method is where you literally break the whole series of steps down into manageable, teachable daily sessions. So the first thing I'm going to want to do, and this, as you can tell, Kiwi's already learned this one, is to desensitize Kiwi to the collar. So a lot of birds are nervous, and feather pluckers tend to be more nervous than others. And Kiwi's not a feather plucker, mind you, but I want her to think of the collar as something that she can enjoy and even play with. That's why we have these fringy things on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait or even encourage and then click and treat her. I'm going to do that a number of times till she is literally wanting to touch the collar and be around it. So that's the first step, is to desensitize her positively and make it rewarding for her to actually touch the collar. My next step, and I have been trying to shoot this video all day long, so she's kind of tired of it and over it. But the next step is going to be to grab my millet and then encourage her to allow the collar to just touch her body, preferably like the head, because we have to slip this one over the head. So, on the Velcro one, you could have it touch their shoulders or something, but just have it touch the bird and have the bird increasingly tolerate the collar touching them for a long period of time. So again, you'd want to use that click and treat method to just kind of put it over their head, you know, and as she tolerates it, and then I would click and give her some treat, but she already has a treat. She took off a little too big nugget of her millet, and so she's she's been working me. So once Kiwi would be able to tolerate the collar touching her head, then I would, you know, encourage her to stick her head through the hole like she's doing right now. Click and treat. And as she actually is the one making the decision to put her head through the hole, I'm going to have to reinforce that a lot and make it really rewarding for her. And then the final step, of course, is going to just be to slip it over her head. Now, one thing to know about these slip-ons, though, and even our Velcro collars, is that they are adjustable. So I wouldn't want to slip it over her head if it were too tight. So what I've done with this collar, we purposefully make the neck holes a little small because not every bird has a bigger head. And I have just taken some scissors and cut some notches in that hole between the seams that allow you to you know, alter the size. And then I've stretched it out. Fleece is a little bit stretchy anyway. And so that's how I get the hole big enough to slip over her head on these slip-on styles. So I hope you understand that that's how you do that. You break it up into incremental steps, progressively in intensity, if you will. First, she needs to tolerate it with her mouth. Then she needs to tolerate it touching her body. Then you need to teach her to slip her head in here. And then we'll just slip it over her head. Now, that is the most humane method, and it gives Kiwi the chance to make the decision that, hey, yeah, go ahead, put that over my head because the treat is so doggone motivating. I'm going to do that for you. And that's my preferred method. It doesn't damage the trust with your bird. The second method that I talked about, though, is, you know, a lot of people use it because they just don't want to wait, given the severity of the plucking problem, and they're worried about their bird a lot. So the second method is going to be to actually use a towel and hold your bird and then slip the collar on. So Kiwi, she's a baby, and I haven't really trained her a lot in terms of towel training. It is an important skill to teach your bird, because anytime you need to groom them or take them to the vet's going to towel the bird. So if a bird learns to trust the towel and enjoys the rewards that it's going to get for allowing itself to be toweled, then it's just a much less stressful situation for the bird. Like I said, Kiwi has not learned, or I haven't worked with her yet on towel training. Maybe I have a little bit. So see, she tolerated that really nicely. What I'm going to do when I get her in the towel, I'm not going to hold her around the chest any more than is necessary, because birds have several air sacs that, you know, you don't want to rupture that. But I'm going to hold her jawbones so that she can't move her head and bite me. And this works great for small and medium-sized birds. For larger birds like my Moluccan cockatoo, sometimes it might take two people. I know the vets, when they have to groom Peachy, they use two people to support him because he is very strong. So with Kiwi, she's used to kind of laying on her back in this towel, as you can see. And this is just a little dish towel with her. A regular towel, like a bath towel, is going to have those hook and loops, and then you run the risk of your bird getting its toenails caught in those loops. So that's why I like these dish towels, or a baby blanket is another great option. So with this on, now I can just take the collar and slip it over Kiwi's head. And like I said, she doesn't like this because she's not a plucker, and so I don't make her wear these collars. But I'm going to support her when I put her down because she's not used to the weight, and she's not used to the feel of the collar. So she's struggling a little bit, but we see that with all birds, is that they do kind of fight it for a couple of days. And what I would do here is I would work with her on when I see her like wreathing around, then I would try to ignore that as much as possible if I know that she's safe. But then once she settles down or maybe eats or tries to drink or something, then I'd really go in heavy with that clicking and treating stuff. Those are the behaviors I want to reinforce. So I reinforce them with the treats and make it motivating for her to settle down and to accept the collar. You would do the same thing if you had to take the bird to the vet and the vet put the collar on, and you'd still want to take several days to reward your bird. I mean, purposefully observe it a lot over those first few days. First, to make sure it's tolerating the collar, but second, to encourage it to tolerate the collar. So that's very important. You still have to train the bird. So the clicker training, I'd really encourage you to invest in a clicker and figure out what your bird's favorite treats are. And I've got some blog posts on that. So now that we've talked about two ways of how to put a collar on a bird and how to make it a more pleasant and less stressful experience for the bird, let's talk about how to set your bird up for success. Again, I'm going back to the force-free method of breaking the behavior down into teachable and quickly learnable steps so that it keeps the pace of the learning up easily. Not only that, you don't get as fatigued when you know, okay, my only goal today is to teach this bird to mouth this collar. You want the bird to mouth the collar because it's way better to preen these things than to over preen and pluck itself. So it's not only better for the bird for you to break the whole training down into reachable, manageable pieces, but it's better for you because you don't lose as much hope. I mean, I know I can train my bird probably in 15 minutes to mouth this. And then tomorrow I could train it to tolerate this on its head. In fact, I have not even trained Kiwi at all, and like I said, she is a confident bird, but I got, in just today, in probably a half hour worth of training, I got her to mouth this and allow that to be on her head, and even, you saw, stick her beak through this hole. So she progressed pretty quickly. It's amazing how fast clicker training works for the birds. Now, like I had alluded to earlier, the longer the bird's been plucking and the more severe the plucking is, the prognosis kind of goes down. And so you have to be thinking about using an entire system, if you will, for these more advanced pluckers. These are the birds that have large bald spots, or even on their body, or maybe even their whole bodies bald. Maybe just down to the down feathers. These birds have taken on probably a brain chemistry level of addiction to the problem, and it's become compulsive. And so you're going to want to integrate wellness strategies, nutritional strategies, potentially some calming supplements, and of course behavior modification, or we call it applied behavior analysis, because that is the most effective thing you can do for your bird, is to really use these behavioral strategies to handle a behavioral problem. Now, a lot of people will combine, the calming formula with a bird collar, and even get the book and some other supplements that support the bird's health and wellness. In the book here, I talk about the importance of health and wellness, reducing stressors for the bird, and then it really dives deep into how to implement these behavioral strategies. In fact, it's a workbook style workbook so that you can print it out and just go step by step in terms of using these strategies to make your bird's life much less stressful and encourage wanted behaviors as opposed to these undesired self-harming behaviors that cause you to seek a collar out in the first place. So I hope that's really helpful. If you found some tidbits of information, give us some thumbs up. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. You guys know how to reach me through my website or Facebook or wherever. I'm happy to help and support. Also consider joining my Facebook private group. It's called Unruffled RX Feather Plucking Help. And that is a very active group, almost 3,000 members strong, who've been dealing with feather plucking for a long time. And so some, the old timers are really supportive of the newcomers, and it's a pretty respectful group. I moderate that group so that I ensure that the behavior modification piece is correct. I'm a licensed clinical social worker with a strong applied behavior analysis background. And so I understand it very clearly, and so I sometimes tweak and moderate a little bit. But it's a great resource. I know, people who have feather pluckers, they get very upset and stressed out about it, and it helps to have someone in your court, so to speak. So there you have it. Hey, if you would think about it, why don't you go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and even hit that little bell, because that little bell will notify you every time I upload a new video. And I've been doing it a lot more lately. I'm finding, everybody's watching videos much more, and it's a great way to teach skills. So, like for instance, I think this was a very helpful video in terms of covering all the ins and outs that you need to consider as you're training your bird to wear a bird collar. So thanks again, and have a nice day.